Hi, I'm Don from DonDronesOn. The DPAC Steering Committee has come up with a consolidated position paper as feedback towards Transport Canada's recent Notice of Proposed Amendments to Drone Regulations. In this video, I'll outline the key points in our feedback to help you provide your own comments to Transport Canada. A very quick recap. In June of 2026, Transport Canada published what they call an NPA with proposed regulatory changes in three distinct areas: remote ID, community-based organizations, and then something they awkwardly call designated airspace and geo-awareness. For the details on each of these, please watch my earlier video diving into each one, or watch screen recordings that I made of the 3 Transport Canada information sessions they held. I have links to those videos in the description below, along with the link, to the actual NPA document, which I encourage you to read. The feedback period ends on September the 9th, so please take a moment to send in your comments to TC by email to this address before that date. We'll publish the DPAC position paper on the DPAC website under Resources, but I encourage you to provide your feedback in your own words. We've developed the position paper with the goal to best match our membership's interests as recreational or small commercial drone pilots. Your perspective may match ours, and it may be different. So please send in something, particularly on remote ID. And by the way, even amongst the steering committee members, we didn't all agree at first. We did settle on one position paper in the end, but some of this stuff is complicated and opinions differ, and that's okay. So let me walk you through the 3 areas in the NPA. The first one is remote ID, the absolute worst bit. If you only have time to comment on one item, pick this one. The DPAC position is that public disclosure of the drone's location and the drone pilot's location is a threat to both the safety and privacy of the pilot. Neither location should be publicly disclosed. And if they go ahead with this, the data should be entirely encrypted to allow access only for Transport Canada, Nav Canada, and law enforcement agencies. And if they actually believe public disclosure is required, they need to explain why. Is public snitching the only way to catch bad drone pilots? No, there are plenty of counter-drone technologies out there to protect critical infrastructures. And if they really want to go ahead with this, Transport Canada must perform a formal and publicly discussed risk assessment, comparing the anticipated benefits to the impact in terms of pilot safety and privacy. So let's talk a little bit more about safety, first of all, and then we'll get to the privacy topic. In one of the information sessions, a Transport Canada representative stated that there is no evidence of an increase in violence towards drone pilots in countries where remote ID has been implemented, like the US and UK. We make a simple ask. Provide those reports that actually state this, because it defies logic. There is already a well-documented history of drone pilots being threatened or harassed, including cases with firearms. In our position paper, we provide direct references to 5 well-known cases, and I've added my own personal experience of being threatened by a member of the public. And if you've ever been threatened, please send your experience to Transport Canada, including a brief summary of what happened, when, and where. They actually asked for this. Copy me on your case if you want, so I can start compiling a database of this stuff. Now, all the cases in our position paper happened before remote ID was established in the various countries. But giving angry or even malicious people a tracking tool is like giving them a weapon. Clearly, publicly transmitting the pilot's location or providing the ability to track a drone back to its launch site can only increase the risk to pilots. It's just simple logic. If tracking tools are used by criminals, well, the results are obvious. But when drone pilots are confronted by angry, often misinformed members of the public, the drone pilot is still at risk of, and it breaks down into these three things: physical assault or even death. One of our case studies shows the pilot was shot. Theft of high-value equipment. And thirdly, possible loss of control of the drone with the potential threat to manned aircraft or people on the ground. All this increased risk to tens of thousands of drone pilots for the sake of catching a few bad actors. A much better solution would be to continue to roll out counter-drone technology at key locations like airports and prisons. These systems can identify and track drones and controllers without needing remote ID and without public disclosure. Now let's talk about privacy. Transport Canada stated that the remote ID system would not transmit personally identifying information, such as names or addresses. And while this is true, it is massively misleading because personal information is any information that identifies an individual, not just stuff like an explicit name or address. So when they disclose the pilot's location, thus enabling a personal confrontation, this immediately becomes the disclosure of personal information. After all, a face-to-face confrontation is way more personally identifying than just a name. And as far as disclosing the drone location is concerned, it is also disclosing personal information. Many of us fly near our homes or fire up our drones at home to do things like update firmware. There are already apps that track manned aircraft paths. It won't be long before similar data aggregation apps will appear to show drone flight paths, making it simple to figure out where drone pilots live. Once again, remote ID would be enabling the disclosure of personal information. And this has been confirmed by a lawyer specializing in privacy law. So, as a recap, the DPAC position is that the public disclosure of the drone and the drone pilot's location is a threat to both the safety and privacy of the pilot. There's absolutely no need for public disclosure of these locations. And if there is a need, TC better demonstrate why it is necessary. And if they go ahead, it should be encrypted for Transport Canada, Nav Canada, and law enforcement access only. Regardless, there is a need for a formal and publicly discussed risk assessment, comparing the public benefits to the costs in terms of drone pilot safety and privacy. Instead of remote ID, they should consider alternatives, such as more counter-drone technology. Okay, remote ID was a doozy. The other two items are a bit easier to deal with. Number 2 in the NPA is community-based organizations, or what they call CBOs. On this one, well, frankly, DPAC doesn't have a very strong opinion one way or the other. The whole CBO construct is targeted mostly towards RC aircraft clubs like MAC. The whole notion of fixed flying fields offers very little for drone pilots. That said, one element worth considering is that the CBO proposal included a lot of restrictions around commercial activities. This caused confusion and concern at the TCO info session for CBOs. How does this affect educational programs with private or public funding? What about pilots with monetized YouTube channels? What about club fees or sponsorship income for clubs? And how does this apply to drone flight reviewers who see CBOs as an interesting workaround? Well, there was a lot of talk at the info session about this, but no real explanation of why commercial activities needed to be restricted in the first place. So our recommendation is that TC should just remove any commercial activity restrictions from the CBO rules, if they go ahead. Just keep it simple and don't muddy the waters by differentiating between recreational and commercial activities. Finally, we come to topic 3, what TC calls designated airspace and geo-awareness. Surprisingly, when we discussed the NPA at our steering committee meetings, this one caused the most disagreement. We all agreed that access to digital information about drone restricted zones was a good thing, raising pilot awareness and all that. But we were divided over whether this should be a mandatory requirement forced into drone controllers or simply provided such that manufacturers and third-party app developers could optionally adopt the systems when datasets provided value. In the end, we agreed on what I would call the optional path, that there is no need for additional regulations tied to this geo-awareness information. Now, this is kind of tricky, and it broke down into several specific elements in this part of the NPA. First, TC said that they would not be able to apply fines, or what they call monetary penalties, unless they had these geo-zones. This makes no sense. There must be another way to apply fines independent of any mandatory geo-awareness system or any other technology. After all, there are already at least 4 very explicit regulations stating that pilots be aware of these zones, whether they're on paper charts or in digital form. And there should be no need to make this geo information display mandatory for drone manufacturers to stuff into their drone controller devices. Sure, it would be a very nice feature, but why does it need to be mandatory with all the associated red tape around manufacturer declarations and keeping track of who meets what and all that? In our opinion, if and when digital datasets provide meaningful safety or regulatory information, manufacturers like DJI and third-party apps like Drone Pilot Canada will quickly adopt them. Build it and they shall come, as they say. Another way to look at it is to compare this to cars. Can you imagine if car manufacturers were forced to always display a warning or start beeping if you exceeded the speed limit? That's a safety issue. Maybe an interesting feature, and again, it'd be in the name of public safety, but I guarantee you it's not likely to be a very popular item. All that said, we do believe that higher risk operations, such as massive medium RPAs weighing over 25 kilograms, as much as 150 kilograms, or BVLOS flights may very well be suitable candidates for mandatory control station warnings. They should consider it for those things. Drone operations like this present a very real public risk and should be heavily regulated, unlike a 1 kilogram recreational drone. So there you have it, a summary of the DPAC Steering Committee's feedback to Transport Canada on NPA 2026-006. The comment period for the NPA closes on September the 9th, 2026, so please take a moment to submit your feedback by email to Transport Canada. And feel free to copy me if you wish. That's my email address. The remote ID part of the NPA is particularly troubling in terms of our personal safety and privacy. So at the very least, comment on that. Thanks for watching. Safe and happy flying.